everybody. Welcome to Cannabis Tech Talks. You're chopping it up with Chuck, and we are here today with one of the biggest cannabis influencers, BigMike Straumetis.
That's correct. How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. Glad to be on the show today.
Thanks so much for being here, Mike. What part of the country are you in right now?
Right now, I am in West Hollywood.
Yeah, there's a lot going on around there right now.
Yeah, there is. There is a lot going down. The fires are running wild around here, and a lot of people are being displaced, and we got rolling blackouts, and that's really harming the growers up north during the harvest season.
Okay, well, if you don't mind, Mike, can you tell our audience a little bit about your background on how you got into the cannabis business?
Oh, sure. 36 years ago, I started out as a grower in I call it the dark ages. And for the last 20 years, I've had a company called Advanced Nutrients. We're the number one cannabis fertilizer and supplement company in the world. Our revenues are over 100 million. We're in 104 countries around the world. The last 15 years, I've had a license to research cannabis. There's only been 3 licenses ever issued by governments to research cannabis during the dark ages. I was one of them. GW was the other one that had in the UK, and Tecumolum in Israel. And I've been studying a lot about cannabis, and now I'm getting into the hemp space with fertilizer, because one of the first things I cut my teeth on to find out data about hemp was studying and getting translated Russian scientific papers from around the earliest was 1904, 1920s, 1930s.
I was going to ask, what's your background? Getting into something like this is pretty scientific.
Well, sure. I've 27 PhDs, working for me. Probably actually closer to 30 now. And for the last 15 years, I had 23 PhDs working in Europe, studying the plant. So my knowledge of this plant is very substantial. We have I started another company called Advanced Hemp. We have hemp fertilizer that's coming out that raises CBD production by 55%. That's the University of Mississippi. Dr. Elsa Holy did that in 2003. So I had a long relationship with Dr. Elsa Holy, and my scientific team is world class. They're the best of the best.
Yeah, it's funny because we're Cannabis and Tech today,
yes.
And people ask all the time, so what's tech have to do with cannabis?
Well,
yeah, there's a lot of directions you can go there.
That's it. Folks always ask me, "Hey, I want to get in the cannabis space. What should I do?" I tell them, first, pick the sector that you like the most, that you want to work in. Second thing you do is go to the state in which you'd want to live, or you do live currently if it's a medical marijuana state. If not, find a state that you do. Pull all the license the license holders for the sector that you want to get into, and send them your resume.
Yeah, and with your background and your knowledge and all the science that's involved in this, I mean, you have to be one of the biggest experts on earth. I mean, we couldn't even study this stuff before, right?
Correct.
Do you think there's going to be a Renaissance period, kind of an age of enlightenment? I feel like there was a brain drain for a really long time, and now there's going to be a glut of research.
Oh, no. The glut of research is going on right now. There's a lot of PhDs all over the world studying this plant. And by the way, depending on what laws come out, I look at hemp, and people say, what's the difference between hemp and cannabis? Well, hemp is cannabis. It's with a low THC threshold. There's 115 different cannabinoids that cannabis produces. The only one that we're not worried about is THC. So you could take a hemp crop, and you could grow CBDA or THCV. There's all these different types of cannabinoids that do different things that you can also program that plant to do through conventional breeding or through gene editing.
There's so many different places that we could go that I definitely want to talk to you about, but I want to talk to you a little bit more about hemp. Mm-hmm. And can you, just for the audience, okay, how would you explain CBD?
Oh, CBD is a very popular cannabinoid that builds the immune system, and has been shown to also with CBG to inhibit tumor growth in cancer. That's the big one.
And then CBG is kind of the new cannabinoid people are talking about?
So let's, I was just discussing this with someone this morning. So a plant first makes CBG, And from CBG, it then makes THC or CBD. So CBG, you'll see people do what's called an early harvest because the plant produces a lot of CBG up until week 5. And so right around week 5 or 6, people are harvesting early before the plant has a chance to convert it, depending on its gene structure, to THC or CBD. And so you harvest CBG, and the big thing about CBG, it does a lot of things. It reduces interocular eye pressure for people with glaucoma. It's an antidepressant. It's an appetite stimulant. But the big one is cancer. It inhibits tumor growth. Specifically, there's been reports out there for prostate and rectal cancer. It's doing really good. And now I just recently heard something about CBG and lung cancer as well.
Wow. This is going to be, what would you say is kind of the state of the state right now with regard to hemp? Are we just getting ready to see a massive explosion?
Well, yes and no. There's 2 bottlenecks in hemp, and that is the genetics, the seeds, and the harvest production equipment. So the report just came out today. Only a third of the 511,000 acres that were planted were actually harvestable because a lot of these farmers didn't understand the crop that they were growing and did a lot of things that made the crop unsellable, or they just lost the crop rotting in the field.
Yeah, we were in Illinois, and they're really excited about coming online and being able to grow there and stuff. And that was one of the things they talked about was they had never really grown hemp up there. They weren't sure how the soil was going to respond. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
No, they're getting caught. In other words, so when they're harvesting their hemp, they need space to dry it, and they didn't consider. You've got guys who went out there and they planted, 400 acres or 5,000 acres. What they didn't consider is how are you going to process that at the end? And that's where they're getting caught. There's machines that can flash dry and what I call refrigeration units. They're big. People are storing it now in freezers. They're harvesting. So there's not enough freezer space. There's not enough processing equipment. And so these crops are rotting. So the marketplace has to catch up to the equipment manufacturers have to catch up to the marketplace. Right now, there is a big lag.
Wow.
Yep.
And this is, I guess it's just kind of trial and error, right? I mean, we're kind of.
No, we know how to grow hemp. Hemp has been grown in Europe for years and years. And there's 2 kinds of production for hemp. There's seed and fiber, which is probably the most stable market right now. But the biggest opportunity is CBD, is producing hemp for CBD. And now we have the FDA very quickly is going to come out with some CBD regulations. The USDA, the agriculture people came out with a 161-page report yesterday, a preliminary report about how they're going to handle it from their end.
And so, do you think that'll help?
I don't know. You know what? It's the government, and I'm just as eager as everybody else to see what the definitive laws are going to be, and how it's going to affect us. It's going to be very interesting over the next few months to see what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right?
It is. Having
regulation and having the government, sort of like I'm with the government and I'm here to help you.
Yeah. Well, the government is definitely, what people have to realize is cannabis is going to be a highly regulated industry. It already is. It needs to get streamlined. That will happen over time.
So you had mentioned CBD. I mean, is this going to be a profitable crop for farmers?
It is, because a farmer can make between $40,000 to $100,000 an acre right now growing CBD. You take the San Joaquin Valley in California, the most profitable crop is almonds at $6,000 an acre. So CBD production is a huge profit center for farmers who know what they're doing. And what I would do is make sure that I have the right facilities to handle the crop at harvest. And then based on the facilities, I would then calculate how many acres I would want to grow. And then, add maybe 10 or 15% to that. And you're off to the races.
And obviously, with it being this profitable, I mean, we're going to see a lot more states that allow it to be grown.
Well, each state is making up their own regulations as well. And so it's very interesting. You can grow it in all 50 states, but the states are coming up with their own different nuances of regulation when it comes to the production of hemp. And then, of course, now you've got the FDA and you got the United States Department of Agriculture as well.
Yeah, just like cannabis, every state's got its own rules and regulations and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it tough to scale, or does it?
Well, right now it's tough to scale because John Deere is going to be making some equipment, has been interested in that, and International Harvester has been working with farmers on harvest equipment. Again, the scaling comes with the equipment that there is a shortage of right now, and of course genetics. There's a shortage of that as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating, all the different industries that are getting ready to move in.
Yeah, no, but listen, make no mistake about it. Big pharma's involved. British American Tobacco, they've got things going on. Marlboro has huge investments made, and they're very quiet about it. But they're out there, and they're locked and loaded and ready to go.
Hey everybody, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here, but we just wanted to remind you that this episode of Cannabis and Tech Talks is brought to you by CRATIV Packaging. When you're looking for innovative, sustainable solutions for packaging, make sure you check out CRATIV Packaging. So you've been phenomenally successful with advanced nutrients and been, super successful with pretty much everything that you've done. What's going to make advanced hemp? What's going to make it different and stand out?
It's well, sure. First of all, there's no one understands cannabis fertilization better than we do. And like I said before earlier, I cut my teeth on hemp. So whether you're using hemp for seed production or protein production, those are going to be different formulas. Currently we have a formula out that increases CBD production by 55%. That's very, very substantial. Now we have testimonials from a few test farmers that were growing it this year, and some of them went higher than 55% increase in their CBD. So basically, if you don't use our nutrients, you're losing massive amount of money if you're growing for CBD. Of course, if you're growing for hemp or fiber, it's a different formulation. I mean, seed and fiber, rather.
Yeah. So it really does go down to the science.
It is.
It goes back to the science into what kind of
sure. So I'm going to give you for instance. So it was either North Carolina or South Carolina. Most of the crop failed in Hawaii too. In Hawaii it was for a different reason, but in North and South Carolina it was because of heavy metals. Well, what people don't realize is cannabis is an accumulator plant. They actually use it in Chernobyl to get rid of radiation out of the ground, but they had radioactive plants. That's another story.
Yeah, you don't want to smoke radioactive weed.
Right, yeah, radioactive weed. It's an accumulator plant, and phosphorus, here's what people must realize. If you're using a standard ag product, 20-20-20 or a 1-1 ratio of some sort, it has a very, very high phosphorus load. Well, in phosphorus, first of all, cannabis doesn't use phosphorus, very, very little. And that's where most of the heavy metals are held, in the phosphorus. Well, that North Carolina crop, in fact, most of the whole state failed because of heavy metals. And so there is an art to cannabis and understanding the plant. And it's not just fertilizer, it's a host of products also that we have that take that plant and optimize it for every stage of its development to bring that plant to its true genetic potential.
I mean, this is going to be a really important part of our life. This plant, it seems like it's going to be just a huge thing. Why for so long was this demonized? Is it just because of kind of it's the decaf coffee of cannabis?
Well, it was demonized in 1937 because DuPont had a product called sulfuric acid that was used on cotton, but they didn't have a product to be used on hemp, so they outlawed cannabis, and that's where it all started, the Dark Ages. And then people realized that this actually plant is helps heal humanity, and now people are looking at it different. You got to remember, for 40 to 50 years, people have been indoctrinated that cannabis is evil and it's the gateway drug and all this other nonsense that turned out to be absolutely false, and that it actually helps humanity.
And that makes sense because it's all, you can always follow the money, right? And
yep.
Determine how policies made and stuff like that. But I was wondering, how did that spread worldwide? Because has hemp been kind of
well, no. In Europe, they've been growing it for a long time. France is probably the largest producer in Europe, followed by Estonia, And then you got Romania, and you've got Hungary, and there's more and more people doing it, and they were using it for seed and fiber production. In Europe, Hemp Flax, I know the owner. He makes car parts, infused plastic as well as hemp composites for Bugattis, BMW, Mercedes. Now, none of those companies will allow him to talk about it, but he makes the door panels and dashes for a lot of those products, and they have hemp in them.
It's fascinating that it's got such a tie-in with sustainability.
It does. It does. He makes hempcrete, insulation. There's Jack Herer's book, The Emperor Has No Clothes. Cannabis is 10,000 different products.
It's a really exciting time right now. I think we're gonna. I guess we'll all be learning a lot about it. What's your guys' time frame for Advanced Hemp?
Oh, Advanced Hemp, we're going to be launching it at the MJ Biz show this coming December. So that will be the launch of Advanced Hemp.
And you guys are going to have a big setup there?
Yes, we are. It's going to be one heck of a setup. We encourage everybody to come by the booth. There's going to be some pretty cool stuff that we're going to be doing. There's going to be an augmented reality experience there for people to enjoy. I'm really looking forward to this MJ Biz show coming up.
Have you been going to that show?
Yeah, we go to a lot of shows. We have booths. There's weeks where sometimes we have 2 or 3 teams out there going to all the different shows. There's just so many shows popping up. You have to be careful on where you go and where you spend your money these days.
Yeah, it's almost like we need a Yelp for people to figure out which shows make the most sense, which ones to go to. Some kind of a ratings or something like that, because there is a ton of events.
There is, and so usually we end up walking the show the first year to see what it is, and then the second year, if it's a good show, then go into it.
Yeah, MJ Biz, I think they're anticipating something like 40,000 people this year. They've got
oh yeah
2 halls now. I mean, it's slowly becoming like.
Yeah, and thank God our industry needed it. For years, our shows were in some of the nicest places and convention centers. Now that it's gone mainstream, we're getting into the big venues and stuff. And for our community, that's a huge difference. It's nice. It's nice to see.
Yeah, and speaking of events, they're just there's better quality information. There's better companies involved. It's definitely they're stepping up their game. So real quick, I wanted to ask you about this. I mean, you're not just a successful businessman. You're not just a really smart guy. You're actually giving back. Would you mind? I just wanted to talk to you briefly. I know the holidays are coming up. Can you touch on your charity?
Sure.
Holiday Heroes.
Yeah. Well, we changed the name to Humanity Heroes, and that's coming up. We started in Bulgaria, where we feed families during the holidays. We changed it, instead of Holiday Heroes, Humanity Heroes. Obviously, gives us a bigger range of throughout the year to help folks. And here in LA, we're going to go we feed the homeless during Christmas time, and we'll be doing that again this year. We'll be handing out 3,000 backpacks that have all the things that the homeless people will that it's usable. We went down there, we talked to them. We wanted to see what they wanted versus what other organizations were recommending, and we found out what the people on the street really need, and we give it to them, and they're grateful for it, and it makes me just feel wonderful to be out there every year doing it.
So, what inspired you to start that?
Oh, geez, yeah, it was actually. So I was in Bulgaria, and they didn't have any charities. I wanted to give money during Christmas time as a business. And they go, sorry, there's nowhere to really give your money to. I said, you got to be joking. They said, no. I said, good, we're going to start a charity. And from the time the first time we gave out we've had about 5,000 or 6,000 people. We gave out 1,000 boxes. From the time I said, we're going to do this, to the time the last box was delivered was 21 days. And we got Coca-Cola on board. We got a bunch of people on board, and we just made it happen. And it changed the culture of that country when it comes to charity. So I'm really proud about that.
That's amazing. It's got to affect the culture of your company too and your employees.
Absolutely. Our team members are really appreciate going out there and doing that and giving back. We have a philosophy that as a company, we should give directly back to the people who give the money, and that's the cannabis community, and we've helped them out throughout the years, giving away about $1.4 million of equipment and nutrients to patients through the year. And then also you need to give back to society as a whole, and that's what Humanity Heroes is about.
So, I mean, I think it's pretty cool, the cannabis industry and the hemp industry. With this being our sandbox,
yes,
big companies are stepping up and they're doing big things. They say success without contribution is the ultimate failure. And it's pretty impressive that we're starting to see more companies and we're starting to highlight people, that are doing things like this that are helping the community.
Sure is. And also, I've got my show, Business Outlaws, with Chris Collins. It's a business show. And, of course, we talk about cannabis on there as well, but it's mostly about business. And the whole purpose of the show is if I could go back and talk to my 24-year-old self, I'm 59 years old, what would I tell my 24-year-old self? And so that's the premise of the show, Business Outlaws. You can get it on iTunes. It's free,
Okay. So you've got Business Outlaws. We've got your charity. You guys probably have a website where they can find you?
Sure. We can go to advancedhemp.ag or, advancednutrients.com and check out our product line.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. You have a hell of a lot of knowledge, and it's been great to hear from someone like you talking about the industry. We look forward to seeing you and the team up at MJ Biz in December. And again, just a big fan of everything that you're doing in the industry. So thank you so much for coming on to Cannabis Tech Talks.
Absolutely, Charles. And anytime you want me on the show, just give me a holler. I'm more than happy to be on.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Cannabis and Tech Talks. And if you like this podcast, make sure you subscribe and share with your friends. And don't forget, make sure you check out our award-winning magazine. You can find it at any Barnes & Noble and on site at most of your favorite cannabis events. And don't forget to follow us on social media so you can stay in the conversation, and visit our website, cannatechtoday.com.